All right, let's just dive right into this. Welcome back to another explainer. Today we're doing something really cool. We are tracing the entire DNA of a business. We're going to walk through the complete entrepreneurial life cycle. We're starting from that literal light bulb moment where you get a brilliant idea, and we're going all the way to the complex and, honestly, super misunderstood reality of how people actually exit a business. It's a huge journey, so let's get started.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, protecting your intellectual property. Then, navigating global value chains. After that, the branding hurdle for SMEs. And finally, the reality of entrepreneurial exit.
Okay, part 1. Protecting your intellectual property. When you start out, your trademark is essentially your business's entire identity in the eyes of your customers. It's not just a cool logo, right? It's any recognizable sign, a word, or even a 3D shape. Think about the classic glass Coca-Cola bottle. That legally distinguishes what you're making from the other guy. The whole point here is to lock down your brand identity so competitors can't use confusingly similar marks to just steal your hard-earned customers.
Now, if trademarks protect the brand itself, copyrights protect how an idea is actually expressed. This is legal protection for original works. So whether you're writing a novel, dropping a new track, filming a movie, or writing thousands of lines of software code, copyright gives you the exclusive legal right to use, reproduce, and distribute that work.
And rounding out the big three, we have patents. Patents are all about the invention itself. This is a legal right granted for something that is new, useful, and, this is key, non-obvious. You can't just patent a vague scientific theory or claim you discovered something that was already sitting there in nature. Patents exist to encourage real innovation by giving the inventor a temporary, time-limited monopoly to make and sell their creation.
So the really crucial thing to understand here is the ticking clock on these protections. A trademark can technically last forever as long as you keep renewing it every 10 years. A copyright lasts a really long time. We're talking the author's entire lifetime plus another 50 years. But a patent, because society eventually needs scientific progress to be free for everyone to use, a patent is strictly capped at 20 years from the day you file it.
So how do you actually lock these down? Well, it's a pretty rigid process. Taking IPO Pakistan as a prime example, it's a structured 5-step system. You start with a search of existing marks, which is optional, but believe me, highly recommended. Then you formally apply. The registrar examines it, they publish it in a journal just in case anyone wants to oppose it, and finally, you get that registration certificate. It's a rigorous hurdle, for sure, but it's absolutely vital for a solid legal foundation.
Moving right along to part 2. Navigating global value chains.
Once your idea is protected, you have to actually build it. And that brings us to the global value chain, or GVC. A GVC is literally the entire A to Z process required to bring a product from a sketch on a napkin all the way to a customer using it. But the magic word here is global. Getting raw materials, assembling parts, customer service, these things are almost never confined to just one country anymore.
Seriously? Just think about the smartphone sitting next to you right now. It wasn't just built into a single factory. It was probably designed by a team in the US. The internal tech might have been manufactured across Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan. Then, all those pieces were likely assembled in China, marketed to you globally, and if you crack the screen, you're getting it serviced locally. That is the reality of modern business. To succeed, you have to know exactly which specific link in this massive global chain your business is meant to occupy.
Okay, part 3, the branding hurdle for SMEs. Now, I want to throw a total mystery your way. Why on earth would highly successful small to medium manufacturers flat out refuse to build their own brands? Take the surgical instruments industry in Sialkot, Pakistan, for example. They export hundreds of millions of dollars worth of products every single year. They're a huge, vital part of the global value chain. And yet, they almost exclusively operate as original equipment manufacturers, meaning they do the hard work of making the stuff, and someone else slaps a brand name on it and takes the massive profit margin. Why hesitate to brand it yourself?
Well, researchers actually dug into this, studying 100 exporting firms to figure it out. And they built a model mapping out 22 very specific barriers that explain why these SMEs in developing countries hold back on going global with their own brands. It turns out it's not for a lack of ambition. They're caught in a really complex web of internal limitations and external roadblocks.
We can actually boil that complex web down into 4 distinct hurdles. First up, organizational factors, things like a severe lack of cash or R&D resources. Second, entrepreneurial factors. Sometimes the founder just has a limited vision or gets a bit complacent. Third are marketing factors. A lot of these manufacturers literally have zero direct contact with the actual end users. And fourth, environmental factors, like weak national IP laws or zero government support. But get this, the study found that risk aversion, the simple fear of failing, wasn't actually a statistically significant factor. It's not that they're scared, it's that they are boxed in by these 4 harsh structural realities.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 4, the reality of entrepreneurial exit. We all know the media absolutely loves to romanticize the entrepreneur hustle. It's always portrayed as this relentless, lifelong pursuit of total independence and billions of dollars. But the grounded reality? It's far more multidimensional. The truth is, a lot of entrepreneurs eventually leave their businesses. Sometimes it's their choice, sometimes it really isn't. But exiting is a totally natural phase of the business life cycle that we almost never talk about honestly.
Let's make this real. A fascinating study in Lahore looked at 11 former entrepreneurs, and it highlights the exact turning points that forced stores to close. One ready-to-wear garment business shut down just because it no longer matched the founder's life goals. A school had to close because a partner heartbreakingly misappropriated the funds. A mobile restaurant went under simply because government regulations suddenly changed. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, right? These are intense emotional turning points in real people's lives.
When you really look at why people walk away, it boils down to 5 main drivers. You've got economic pressures, like low profits, strategic moves, like cashing in on a massive buyout offer, personal reasons, burnout is huge here, or shifting family needs, business performance issues, like toxic partner conflicts, and external shocks, like a sudden recession or a new law. The big takeaway here is that an exit is almost never just one isolated thing. It's usually a messy, tangled combination of a few of these hitting all at the same time.
Which leaves us with a pretty massive question. If someone looks at the economy, assesses their own burnout, and makes a completely rational, strategic choice to walk away from their business, is quitting actually a failure? It's probably time we kill that myth. Successfully exiting a venture, even one that didn't turn into the next Apple or Google, is a vital, healthy part of the business life cycle. It frees up your money, your hard-earned lessons, and your energy for whatever your next great idea is going to be. And that is the complete journey. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope it really shifts how you look at the life cycle of a business. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.